Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My Two Cent video for this week, for the week of December 8th to the 14th, where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion. And we actually got 6 stories to cover this one, including the Game Awards, which some people liked it, some people didn't like it though. Nintendo and Sony doing their own version, their own direct. Sony with their State of Play, and of course Nintendo with their Indie World. We also have a odd story about MLB The Show is going to be appearing on other systems, which at this point was an exclusive on the PlayStation, and a rumor about Disney possibly bringing remaking a certain IP that could be making its way over to a lot of systems, including the Nintendo Switch. And of course, we have the NPD results, and apparently it seems several games I seem to have done pretty well on that one. But before we get started, we'll do a quick rundown, is what I like to call the quick My Two Cent, and we'll start off with a couple of them. The first one we do want to talk about, and this one's kind of a bad news for Switch owners who picked up Payday 2. It appears as though that, unfortunately, that version will not be getting any more updates, which unfortunately is going to be a disappointment to a lot of people, especially me, who may have picked up Payday 2 on the Nintendo Switch, although there have been reports that the studio that had worked on Payday 2, or the Payday franchise, has been running into sort of financial trouble. So it's also possible that the Switch version didn't sell as well as they were hoping for, but it is unfortunate nevertheless, indeed. We also learned that Nintendo just released new games for the NES and Super NES library. One of those is Star Fox 2, the one that never saw the light of day here in the West, although it was recently released on the Super NES Mini. So it is nice that Nintendo has released some new games for the NES and Super NES library as part of the Nintendo Switch Online. That said, I do think they need to do a better job with their release schedule. Indeed, they also brought Super Punch Out, Kirby Superstar. I believe it's Kirby Superstar Saga, if I'm saying the name correctly, Breath of Fire 2, and I think Crystallize, the NES game, although that one got a remake on the Game Boy Color. I remember that as well. We also learned that during the Games Awards, we learned that the release date for the new DLC for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, titled Rise of the Phoenix, and it will be released on December 23rd. And we also learned that Bravely Default 2 is being developed exclusively from the Nintendo Switch by the same folks who did, the first and Bravely Second, and of course, my personal favorite, Octopath Traveler. Although some people are kind of confused on why they're calling this Bravely Default 2, and I'm basically ignoring Bravely Second and all that stuff. But nevertheless, that game is coming to the Nintendo Switch, although I would be happy if they were to remake Bravely Default and Bravely Second and brought that over. And I also believe we heard that the remake of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles has been delayed until summer 2020, which is unfortunate indeed, but it is what it is. And last but not least, we've been getting a odd rumor coming out about the possibility, and this comes from a Reset Era by the name of King Zell, who supposedly has a history of getting things right, of the claim that Halo could be coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, it's worth pointing out there is no official confirmation at this time in regards to that, though, and we don't know if it means like the Halo games are actually coming to Nintendo Switch, or if it's going to be like Master Chief is going to be on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate or anything like that. So, and I will have to say this sounds a little far-fetched to a certain degree, and I'm taking this one with a huge grain of salt until there is actual confirmation. That said, though, Microsoft has brought over some of their games to the Nintendo Switch. Cuphead is one example, and Ori and the Blind Forest is another. So it's possible they could do like a Halo collection or like a Master Chief collection to the Nintendo Switch. So there is that possibility, but as of right now, I'm treating this as nothing more than what it is. It's a rumor right now, and I'm taking it with a huge grain of salt. So until there's official confirmation on this one, I would say take this one with, like I said, take this one with a huge grain of salt until there is actual confirmation on it. Alright, with that quick my 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first one, and this one has to do with a rumor in regards of Disney. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of the YouTuber Drake81. I've seen a lot of his videos. Sometimes he's right about on some of his videos, and then there are times when he could be completely wrong on it as well. And this newest one that he put out in terms of it is regarding that Disney is basically working on what supposedly is going to be a remake of a game, bringing it over to the PS4, Xbox One, PC, Mac, and Nintendo Switch. Excuse me. In an article from Nintendo Life, links will be in the description down below, it reads that, quote, YouTuber Drake81, who last week revealed the rumored Rig Racer 8 project for the Switch, has been axed, although, just to be clear, that one has never been confirmed or anything like that, has now seemingly discovered information about an unannounced Disney action game remade on its way to the Switch and other platforms. The finding comes from a LinkedIn profile of a certain individual, the CEO and creator director of Play Magic, which is the same development team behind the remake of the cel-shaded shooter 13 that has been delayed until next year. At the top of the project selection, the LinkedIn profile, the Disney project is listed. In addition to this, an unannounced third-person action game remake for all modern platforms, including the Switch. Drake81, if I'm saying his name correctly, is unsure what the second listing could be. As for the Disney game, he doesn't think it was likely to be Kingdom Hearts, as the game has already been remastered on their platforms. There are also fan speculation it could be Epic Mickey, a Mickey Mouse game in general, or a Star Wars title. Now, it is worth pointing out 2 things I do want to say, though, and that is, number one, neither Disney nor Play Magic has made any confirmation on this at the same time, and 2, Drake81 did an updated video on this, again, the link will be in the description of this video, of him basically claiming now they have deleted some of this stuff, so it could be either true or not. But as always, this is a rumor, and it should be taken with a grain of salt. Excuse me. That being said, though, it does kind of raise speculation of what kind of game could the studio be remaking for, all these platforms, including the Nintendo Switch. Some ideas could be maybe digging through some of the Star Wars license, like maybe a remake of Shadows of the Empire, Rogue Squadron, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, or maybe, I think, Republic Commando. I think that was originally for the Xbox, or maybe Knights of the Old Republic in any way. There's always that possibility. Other possibilities, since Disney now owns 20th Century Fox, they could say remake Simpsons Hit and Run. I do remember hearing about how the producer, I believe, of that game would love to go back and remake that game. Epic Mickey, and that's the one I've been hearing and kind of been floating around. I could see that happening. I could see Epic Mickey being a game being remade, though. I remember playing the original Epic Mickey when it came out in 2010 for the Nintendo Wii, and despite the motion controls being kind of a hit and miss in certain areas, though, it was still playable, just not 100% perfect. It was a fun game. It was kind of like a one-part collectathon, like Banjo-Kazooie, and kind of like a typical Zelda game, to be exact, though. It had all the visuals that looked nice, and also had the whole choice and consequences. Apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. Depending on your actions, you may actually help or hinder people. It may have an impact on certain situations, and even the ending as well. Not to mention, if you attack certain enemies, depending on which paint you use. If you use the green paint, you can use that to make defeat the enemies. If you use the blue paint, you could turn them to become your allies that would attack any of the other enemies out there. So it's a lot of the whole choice and consequences. Something that Warren Spector, who worked on Disney Epic Mickey, is basically known for. As for if this is the game, to be exact, it would be very curious to see how they would make it work, considering that the original Epic Mickey used the motion controls. I mean, I'm sure they could rewrite some areas and use traditional controls, but I'm still a little curious to see how this works out. So if it is Epic Mickey, I would be down with that. I would love to see and maybe modernize it, rework a little bit of it though. And if it does well, if Epic Mickey does exist and this is the game they're working on and it sells very well, maybe they could rework, say, Epic Mickey 2, The Power of 2. But we'll have to wait and see. So overall, as always, this is a rumor. We don't know if this is 100% true or not. But I am very curious to see what kind of game that Disney is allowing the studio to remake. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with the report of how MLB The Show, that was once a PlayStation exclusive, is now going to multiple platforms. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be talking about MLB The Show. And surprisingly, it's going to be going to other consoles, though. Now, I'm not really a big sports gamer or play sports, video games, sports games, or anything like that. I mean, there are some, I played some here and there, but none of them really caught my attention. I'm not really big into those type of games. That said, there's no denying there is an audience for it out there. I'm sure there are those who like, the Madden series and so forth, although there has been some criticisms about that, including with the whole loot box and microtransactions, though, especially with FIFA and so forth, though. But nevertheless, there are people who do enjoy sports games, and up to this point, though, the MLB The Show, which has always been a PlayStation game, it's always been on Sony's system and so forth, until today, or at least this won't happen until next year. It appears as though that what was once a PlayStation exclusive, at least for that system, looks like it's going to be appearing on other systems as well, including the Switch and also the Xbox, probably Microsoft's next system. They're calling it the Xbox X and so forth. But this is interesting to see this happen. In an article from Business Insider, it reads, though, quote, "After more than 2 decades as a PlayStation exclusive, Sony's best-selling baseball franchise, MLB The Show, will make the leap to Microsoft's new Xbox and the Nintendo Switch. On Monday, Major League Baseball and the MLB Players Association announced a multi-year extension of Sony's license deal. MLB The Show is one of 2 baseball games feature Major League players. The other, RBI Baseball, is developed by MLB's own in-house video game studio at MLB Advanced Media. The Sony-owned San Diego studio has been developing MLB games for more than 20 years. Before changing names in 2006, the MLB The Show series was just called MLB, and until now, the franchise has always been a PlayStation exclusive. Sony typically keeps game development by its in-house studios exclusive to the PlayStation console to protect the value of the brand. However, the board appeal of Major League Baseball could lead to a much higher sale for MLB The Show once it becomes available to millions of gamers with Xbox and Nintendo consoles for the first time. For Major League Baseball, having its most popular baseball game in front of a new audience will help promote the real product on the field. It's not exactly clear when the series will appear on other consoles since MLB The Show 20 is already in development and is scheduled for a March 2020 release on the PlayStation 4. The statement announced a deal saying MLB The Show could appear on Xbox and Switch as early as 2021, but more specifically, details will be announced in the future. So, and there's more to the article if you want to read it from Business Insiders. So, it's just odd in a way, though, to see the idea that a game developed by Sony is now going to be making its way to not only the Xbox, but also to the Nintendo Switch. And I'm very curious to see how MLB The Show will look like and how well it will run onto the Nintendo Switch. The fact that it won't be out next year, though, isn't really that shocking. I'm sure it would be a little too late or anything like that. So the fact that we might see it on like the Switch or Xbox or the Xbox X series, if that's what Microsoft's calling it, in 2021 or beyond, it shouldn't be really a surprise at all. But does this mean that basically, does this mean this has opened the door for Sony to bring their popular franchises to like other systems like the Switch or anything like that? I gotta say, unlikely though. As interesting as it would be to see a game like Uncharted or Horizon Zero Dawn or Jak and Daxter or Sly or Ratchet & Clank on a Nintendo Switch, I think this deal doesn't really do anything, open that up or anything. I think that's going to be unlikely. Instead, I think it just sounds more likely it's just for just this one game or this one series only. So if you were hoping this opens the door for for Sony's IP to make its way over to the Nintendo Switch, I would say keep dreaming. I highly doubt that's going to happen at all or anything like that. Still, it is kind of surprising to see a game from Sony, such as MLB The Show, make its way over possibly to the Nintendo Switch. And I'm very curious, as always, to see how well it plays. So, overall, very interesting to see a Sony-developed game make its way over to the Nintendo Switch. But I'm guessing that it only just applies to this game only, and I really doubt we'll see any of Sony's IPs make its way over onto the Nintendo Switch, or even onto the Xbox in general. So, still, like I said, we'll have to wait until sometime or after 2021 to see how MLB The Show looks on other systems and other consoles and PCs, to be exact. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and this one has to do with Sony's newest State of Play video. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My True Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Sony's State of Play for December 2019. Well, apparently this will be the last State of Play we get for Sony for this year as we gear up towards next year, and it's obviously going to be the last one for the PS4 this year, as once the PlayStation 5 comes out, though, obviously a lot of the State of Plays will focus on games coming to that system, the PS5. As far as what this one showed off, I mean, there were some games that caught my attention and all that stuff, but there were really 2 that got my biggest attention of them all. Obviously, they did show off a little bit of Ghost of Tsushima, if I'm saying the name correctly. I apologize if I'm not, but they did show off more of that at the Game Awards and all that stuff. As far as what the other games they showed off, though, some of the ones that caught my attention were the Paper Beast. I mean, that looked kind of interesting, though. The fact that Untitled Goose Game is coming to the PS4. I've heard some really good things about that game, although it's also available on the Switch, and I'll probably get that I'll get that one on the Nintendo Switch. We do know that they're doing Predator Hunting Ground, which is an asymmetric multiplayer game. Again, not that one doesn't really interest me a lot, though, but for those who are like multiplayer or like the asymmetric multiplayer style of gameplay, I'm sure that those games will be right up your alley. But the 2 games from the PlayStation State of Play that caught my attention the most, that I am definitely looking forward to, was Babylon Fall and Resident Evil 3, the remake of Resident Evil 3. Babylon Fall obviously is being published by Square Enix and being developed by one of my favorite studios out there, Platinum, though. Now, this year, Platinum released Astro Chain, which I think is a very fun game for the Nintendo Switch, and it's worth picking up. And I'm looking forward to Babylon Fall, and based on the gameplay that we've seen so far, I'm definitely getting that Nier Automata, Bayonetta, Devil May Cry vibe out of it, and that certainly is a good thing. So that's definitely one of the games I'm looking forward to when it comes out next year. And of course, the Resident Evil 3 remake, which, after being rumors about it, though, we finally have it revealed, and honestly, I'm not shocked that Capcom is doing a remake of Resident Evil 3, given how well Resident Evil 2, the remake, was well received from both critics and fans, not to mention sales-wise, though. It shouldn't come to a surprise that a remake of Resident Evil 3 was going to happen. Although I am curious to see how long Resident Evil 3, the remake, was in development, and the fact that they're aiming for supposedly a March 2020 launch date, if I remember that correct. No, excuse me, April 3rd, 2020 launch date. I wonder just how long in development this game was. And of course, what kind of changes could we see to the Resident Evil 3 remake? Are we still going to have a situation where a nemesis is going to stalk you in any way? Is he going to be like how Tyreth was in the Resident Evil 2 remake? Will there be decisions where certain outcomes can happen? Like, for example, in the old Resident Evil 3, after Nemesis took out Brad, you had the option of confronting Nemesis to try to get Brad's ID card, or run into the police station, but you had to fight off a swarm of zombies to go into a certain room to pick up a police ID card, to, alternating making choices that could affect a certain battle or a certain ending. So I'm curious to see if those kind of features will make it in any way, or there will be any brand new features and all that stuff, or if there are certain elements of the story being rewritten. And then for those who may not remember, the original Resident Evil 3 did not have the kind of situation that the Resident Evil 2 did, where you had Leon's campaign and Claire's campaign, and also campaign A and campaign B. So I'm curious to see what kind of direction they will go with the Resident Evil 3 remake. And if this game does well, and I have a feeling it probably will, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear them saying, hey, we're going to remake Resident Evil Code Veronica while we're at it. And so far, the games that Capcom had running on the Resident Evil engine seem to be doing very well indeed. So the Resident Evil 3 and Babylon Fall, to me, were the highlights for me for December's Sony State of Play. So overall, some interesting games and all that stuff. But like I said, Babylon Fall, Resident Evil 3, those are my games, and those are my games I'm looking forward to, and those were the highlights, for Sony's State of Play. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4, and this one has to do with Nintendo's Indie World video for December 10th. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the Nintendo Indie Worlds, or the Indie Directs for December 2019. Now, as some of you may or may not have been aware of, along with Sony coming out with their State of Play on December 10th, Nintendo hosted theirs Directs, mostly focused on a lot of the indie games. And while not all the indie games will appeal to a lot of people, there were some out there that did caught my attention, even though unfortunately I didn't get around to watching the Indie World Direct, which I really should have gotten around to watching it. But based on what I've read so far, there are certainly some games that did exactly caught my attention in regards of indies. As some of you know, some of the games they showed were games like Sports Story, Streets of Rage 4, Gemlight, Bacon Switch, Super Mash, the Talos Principle Deluxe Edition, TALOS. Again, I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly though. Sailforth, Dauntless, Murder by Number, Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, Skatebird, Liberated, Boyfriend Dungeon, Dreamscape, the Survivalist, and Axiom, AXIOM, Verge 2, though. And I will say some of the games look kind of interesting. The one that I thought I'm kind of maybe looking into that might be interesting is, of course, Murder by Number. This one kind of gives off a little bit of a Phoenix Wright vibe to it in a way, and that certainly isn't a bad thing. So that's certainly one I would keep an eye on. The other one, of course, is the Talos Principle Deluxe Edition. That one looks kind of interesting. A first-person kind of first-person view, solving puzzles and so forth. It almost kind of reminds me a little bit. It's not. I think it's called Valve or something like that. It's not Half-Life or anything like Valve or something like that. I forgot the name. I apologize if I didn't get the name down correctly though. But the ones that did caught my attention the most, I would say, Sports Story does sound interesting though. I think it's basically the sequel to Golf Story. I've heard some good things about that one. Streets of Rage 4 is definitely one I'm keeping an eye out on that one too. It's an old school brawler. I remember playing the original one when I was young, playing at a friend's house who had a Sega Genesis. So it's definitely looking forward to that one as well. It's of course seeing the original cast and all that stuff. Gleamlight from Hollow Knights, from the developers of Hollow Knights, is actually, wait, no, it's not come from the Hollow Knights. It comes from the developers of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So that certainly looks interesting indeed. That's one I would definitely be keeping an eye out on that one. Super Mash looks really interesting. I like the concept. The idea is you combine different genres and put them in together to make like a certain game and so forth. So that's definitely one I will more than likely keep an eye out on that one though. Talos, like I mentioned, Talos Principle though. And the other two that certainly caught my attention was Oddworld Stranger's Wrath. I never played that game, but I've heard some really good things about that one. I definitely will be keeping an eye on that one when that comes out on January 2020. Maybe this will open the door to, say, other entries of the Oddworld series coming over to the Nintendo Switch. And last but not least, the other one is Axiom Verge 2, the sequel to the first one. That was a fun game indeed. That was sort of like a throwback to the old Metroid games and all. So this one, and the fact that doing the sequel though, it certainly is nice, and it definitely will get some people who want their, like their Metroidvania fix to it and so forth. And this one sadly won't be out until next fall, or in fall 2020 to be exact. So overall, I have to say, not a bad indie world director or anything like that. It may not have the same wow factor the way when one of them did, which had the big announcement of Cuphead coming to the Nintendo Switch earlier this year in any way. But there were some that did stand out indeed, and I'm definitely looking forward to trying some of that. Like games like Super Mash, Streets of Rage 4, Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, and of course Axiom Verge 2. Again, I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly. So overall, interesting direct. Some of the games definitely are ones I will be keeping an eye out indeed. It isn't the main Nintendo Direct or anything like that. I'm sure we'll get one probably in January or anything and so forth. But I did like, based on what I've read, I did like what they announced at the final, basically their Nintendo Indie World Direct, or at least the final one for this year. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 5, and this one has to do with the Game Awards that just happened on Thursday. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 5 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the Game Awards 2019. Now, as we all know, the Game Awards happen on Thursday and so forth, and the reaction so far has been, well, kind of mixed at best. Some there were certainly some surprises, like the fact that Death Stranding did not excuse me, did not win Game of the Year or dominated the Game Awards, as some people were concerned about, considering the host's connection with Kojima and so forth. And there were certainly some announcements that, well, some people were kind of disappointed with like what Nintendo when they tweeted "Stay tuned" at the Game Awards and so forth. But based on what I read, like the Indie Direct, I unfortunately did not read or anything like that. There were some interesting announcements, including Microsoft announcing their next system entitled Xbox Series X. And based on what it looked and all that stuff, it kind of looked like a giant version of, that Amazon Alexa or, that Google device and all that stuff. So it just looks weird in a way, and they're calling it Series X. It gives the impression that we'll probably see more than one model, which may or may not sit well with anyone like that. But they did show off one game for it for now, though. I'm sure there are other games coming as well. We learned that Senyu Saga Hellblade 2, or Hellblade 2 in general, has been announced, as that game is being developed for the Xbox Series X, developed by Ninja Theory, which was bought by Microsoft itself. So obviously it's an Xbox Series X exclusive, though. As far as the PS5, though, we did get an announcement of one game that was shown off, supposedly running on the PS5 hardware, although I'm not 100% certain, and that is Godfall, being published by Gearbox Publishing, though. So far, we only had a cinematic trailer. We don't really have, like, whether it's going to run, if it's a single player or multiplayer, or if it's kind of like Borderlands in any way. So, not a whole lot, other than a holiday 2020 release date. Although it's coming to the PC, you can see the logo at the end of the trailer, Epic Games, which sounds like this is going to be an Epic Game Store exclusive, which, yeah, I know not everybody who plays on PC likes the whole Epic Game Store and all that stuff, but unfortunately, it sounds like it is what it is, though. Whether you agree with that or not, well, that's going to be up for you to decide on that one. Obviously, we learned about Bravely Default, as I mentioned in the quick My 2 Cents. That was, or Bravely Default 2, though. We also learned of the game being developed by the folks who worked on Prey and Dishonored, called Weird West, and that's coming out courtesy of Devolve Digital. Supposedly, it's going to be like an action RPG, and I believe I remember hearing about this one coming to the Nintendo Switch. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll have to wait and see about that one as well. We also learned about the successor to Baldur's Gate's Dark Alliance, called, well, they're calling it Dark Alliance, which is a spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate's Dark Alliance, which, honestly, personally, I would love to see a port of Baldur's Gate's Dark Alliance 1 and 2 be made, though. I mean, we've seen that with Baldur's Gate's, the original 1 and 2 being ported over. I would love to see Baldur's Gate's Dark Alliance 1 and 2 happen as well, if they ever get to that. Get to that one, though. We also saw some stuff like the Final Fantasy VII Remake got a trailer at the Game Awards, although we learned that that's no longer an exclusive, and past 2021 we could see it appear on other systems. Whether that happens or not, that remains to be seen, though. We also had a new trailer for No More Heroes 3, which gives us a little bit of an idea what the story is going to be, as it now seems to be, though, that Travis Touchdown will be defeating other assassins, this time from outer space. I mean, the trailer's just weird, but then again, No More Heroes series has always been sort of weird and out there, and that's definitely one of the games I'm looking forward to getting. As far as the winners or that goes, though, this, as I mentioned earlier, despite the rumors that have come out about people claiming that Death Stranding was going to dominate the award ceremony and the relationship between the host and basically Kojima. That didn't seem to be the case in any way. In fact, it looks like the game of the year went to Sekiro Shadow Die Twice from Software. That game actually won game of the year, and I would say congratulations to that one winning, though. The Outer Worlds was also nominated. Unfortunately, didn't win, though. It's a shame, though, because I really would have liked to see the Outer Worlds win some awards. But Death Stranding did win some awards. However, they did win best game direction. Let's see, what else did they win? Oh, best score and music and best performance from Mad Mitsikin. I apologize if I'm not saying his name correctly, though. He was the person who was in the remake of Casino Royale, and he also played one of the villains in the Doctor Strange movie, though. He won the award for Death Stranding, won that award as well. As far as other games go, Fortnite won for best ongoing game. Disco Elysium won for best independent game. Independent game though. Destiny 2 won for best community support as well. Devil May Cry 5 won for best action game. Sekiro Shadow Die Twice won for best action adventure. Disco Elysium, if I'm saying the name correctly, won for best role-playing game. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate won best fighting game, though. Luigi's Mansion 3 won best family game. Best strategy game, Fire Emblem Three Houses. That also won, I believe if I'm saying this name correctly, though. Let me look it up. Player's Voice. Player's Voice, that won as well. So Fire Emblem Three Houses won 2 awards, though. Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled won Best Sport and Racing Game. Apex Legend won Best Multiplayer Game. And Norma Studio for Grits won for Best Fresh Indie Developer, although they say presented by Subway, all that stuff. So there were some awards. So there are some people that won. There's some games that won and did well, though. Obviously, not every game won an award and so forth. There were some people that, like me, would have loved to see the Outer Worlds win an award, but it is what it is. So despite some of the controversy, Death Stranding didn't technically dominate it as some people had feared, though. As far as Nintendo goes, they had some good stuff to show as well. Bravely Default 2, as I mentioned, as well. No More Heroes 3, which is certainly nice. But other than that, it didn't blow me away in the way, like, say, Bayonetta 3 did when they showed that off at the Game Awards back in 2017. But nevertheless, it did take home some awards. Like I said, fighting game, Smash Bros. Ultimate won. Best family game, Luigi's Mansion 3. And of course, Fire Emblem Three Houses won 2 awards. Best strategy and player's voice, which obviously indicates that the Fire Emblem series isn't going away anytime soon, despite the concerns that Nintendo was going to put it to rest as it wasn't doing very well. But obviously, the series has been doing well ever since, and hopefully they will open the door and maybe do bring back like the War series or something like that. And as for Luigi Mansion 3 doing well, I'm hoping that Luigi Mansion 4 does happen. So overall, some games, some surprise announcements though. Some games won some awards, which I'm happy that those games did, but nothing really special indeed, though. Nintendo's presentation there was, I would say, mixed. There were some good announcements they put out, but nothing really outside of maybe No More Heroes and Bravely Default 2. Nothing really like special and all that stuff. And a lot of people were kind of disappointed with the awards show and all. But again, a lot of it's going to depend on how you set your expectations on it, though. So overall, great that Nintendo won some awards there. Congratulations to Sekiro Shadow Die Twice for winning Game of the Year. Interesting to see the Xbox Series X, though, and see what the design of what Microsoft's next system is going to be. It's going to be very interesting to see what the PS5 is going to look like indeed. So the overall takeaway is that it was interesting, but nothing really, for me though, at least nothing really mind-blowing or anything like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 6, and this one's going to do with the NPDs that we got. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 6 of our My 2 Cent video for this week, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at November's NPD charts though. So we finally got the results for what games did well during the month of November, and it looks like 2 games in particularly, it sounds like did very well in the NPD charts though. One is, of course, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and the other one, despite getting some controversy, seemed to have what seems like the controversy didn't really have impact on it, and that is Pokemon Sword and Shield. We'll start off first according to VentureBeat, which got the results from the NPD charts, and according to them, in terms of hardware though, it apparently November 2019, Nintendo Switch was still the top on the US charts. And according to the report, it says purchasing hardware is out of fashion for the US console gaming market, according to the industry tracking firm the NPD Group. The Xbox One and PS4 has grown old, and their sales are on decline. The significantly younger Nintendo Switch, however, continues to dominate. Nintendo Switch was again the best-selling hardware platform of November and remains the best-selling platform of 2019, according to NPD. Hardware spending in November 2019 declined 26% when compared to a year ago to $891 million. Year-to-date hardware spending has fallen 24% versus a year ago to $2.9 billion, though. This decline in hardware spending is natural for cycle console business. Xbox One and PS4 both debuted in 2013. New consoles for both Microsoft and Sony are coming holiday 2020, and the casual audience that once showed up for the cheap consoles in the latter day of the PS2 are more likely to spend their money on the new iPhone these days. But when the new systems do debut, they will likely fly off the shelves as long as they're not $700 though. So I'm still waiting to hear what the price point for those 2 systems are, but like I said, hopefully they're not that expensive. But to see the fact that the PS4 and Xbox One, the sales on decline, isn't really that shocking considering the fact that obviously people are gearing up for when Xbox One X Series and PS5 comes out next year. I'm sure they're looking forward to picking that one up as well. And I've said this before and I'll say this again, it will be interesting to see what kind of position the Nintendo Switch is next year when those 2 systems comes out. But for right now, the Switch continues to do very well, and that's got to put a smile on Nintendo's face. As far as software goes, well, apparently a lot of like according to the article of VentureBeat, it looks like Pokemon had the best launch in the series history. As far as basically the top best-selling games of October in the US, according to them, they're saying number 1, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. Number 2, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Number 3, Pokemon Sword. Number 4, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield Double Pack. Number 5, Pokemon Shield. Number 6, Madden NFL 20. Number 7, Death Stranding. Number 8, NBA 2K20. Number 9, Need for Speed Heat. Number 10, Luigi's Mansion 3. Number 11, FIFA 20. Number 12, Borderlands 3. Number 13, The Outer Worlds. Number 14, Just Dance 2020. Number 15, Mario Kart 8. Number 16, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Number 17, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Number 18, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Number 19, Grand Theft Auto 5. And number 20, Mortal Kombat 11. So, I'm sure EA must be happy with Jedi Fallen Order at being at number 2, and I'm sure Nintendo's happy that they got several games up there. 3, 4, and 5 were dominated by Pokemon. Luigi's Mansion 3 at number 10. Mario Kart 8 at number 15. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a game from 2017, at number 16. And of course, Smash Bros. Ultimate at number 17. And of course, Grand Theft Auto 5 is still on this chart. It's definitely not going away. I have a feeling that it has now turned into the new Skyrim and all that stuff. As far as the best-selling games of 2019 so far, obviously Call of Duty Modern Warfare is at number 1, but Smash Brothers Ultimate entered it at number 8, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order enters in at number 9. Borderlands 3 is at number 4, and number 5, of course, is Mortal Kombat 11, and Kingdom Hearts 3 at number 6. As far as the best-selling games in the last 12 months, obviously Call of Duty is at number 1, and of course, the only Nintendo game on that list is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at number 2. Borderlands is at number 3. Red Dead Redemption 2 is at number 5. And Kingdom Hearts 3 is at number 9. As far as the Xbox One goes, unfortunately, it has, based on this chart though, it doesn't look like there were any first-party games from Microsoft that entered on the list. Otherwise, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is at number 2 on the list, and The Outer Worlds is at number 10. Over on to the PS4 side of it, they do have one first-party game on that list, and that was Marvel Spider-Man, and that is at number 9 on the top 10 PS4 games for October 2019. Otherwise, Modern Warfare is at number 1. Oh, I also forgot to say this. Death Stranding's at number 3 on that list, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is at number 2. Over to the Nintendo Switch. Apparently, Just Dance 2020 is the only third-party game on this list, though, and that is at number 8. Otherwise, all of them have pretty much been dominated by first-party games, with Pokemon Sword at number 1, Pokemon Sword and Shield Double Pack at number 2, Pokemon Shield at number 3, Luigi's Mansion 3 at number 4, Mario Kart 8 at number 5, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at number 6, Super Smash Bros. At number 7, I mentioned Just Dance already, Ring Fit Adventures at number 8, at number 9, and Super Mario Odyssey at number 10. So, the overall takeaway from this is that it's two things that you could take away from it, and that is, number 1, Jedi Fallen Order has certainly did very well, though, and hopefully this is a wake-up call for EA to perhaps maybe, you don't always have to do games as a service and all that stuff. Not every game needs to be that. You can make a linear single-player game and people will actually buy it. Hopefully that is a wake-up call for them, though, although I seriously doubt it, though. But the fact that Pokemon Sword and Shield did very well is certainly interesting, because before the game came out, there were controversies. There was the issues about the visuals, not all the Pokemon would be in the game and everything like that. But based on what the NPD has released, it seems as though none of the controversies was able to impact the release, impact the sales for Pokemon Sword and Shield. It looks like those games did very well in the US. So overall, I will say, in my view, the big winners were probably Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Pokemon Sword and Shield. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this rumor about I think Disney working with a studio to remake a certain Disney IP for multiple systems: PS4, Xbox One, PC, Mac, Switch? Do you think the rumor could be that this game could be Epic Mickey by any chance? Do you think it could be any other games that I mentioned, like maybe Simpsons Hit and Run or Star Wars Shadows of the Empire in any way? What are your thoughts about MLB The Show? Could be coming to the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox One, or the Xbox system is going forward. Are you excited for the MLB The Show coming to those systems though? Do you think in any way this will open the door to maybe other Sony properties coming to other systems, or do you think that's a bit far-fetched and you believe that this is most likely just focused on MLB The Show? What are your thoughts about December's State of Play? Were you pleased with what Sony showed during the State of Play? Were there any games that interest you in any way? Were you interested in the Resident Evil 3 remake or Babylon Falls, if I'm saying the name correctly to be exact? What are your thoughts about the Nintendo Indie World or the Indie Directs? Did it live up to your expectations in any way? Did you like what they showed at this Direct though? Are you looking forward to any of the games like Oddworld Stranger Wrath or Super Mash or Axiom Verge 2 in any way? What are your thoughts about the Game Awards? Were you pleased with what they were showing though? Do you think the Game Awards were a big disappointment as some people thought it would be, or do you thought, you know what, it wasn't that bad or anything like that? And were you pleased with the nominees, or were you pleased with the games that won the awards, or do you think there were other games that should have gotten those awards instead? And of course, did you like any of the announcements that were made during the Games Awards? And what are your thoughts about the NPD charts? Were you surprised by these results? Were you not surprised by this? Were you pleased to see Pokemon Sword and Shield do well despite the controversy in any way? Were you pleased that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order did well at all? Did you like what you see? Did you like what you see? Did you not like what you see? Do you agree with what I said in any way? Or did you disagree at all? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!